back to you on your prospect
Sure.
report.
Yeah. Yeah.
Please
So
go ahead.
a few of the guys, I only have two on here right now, but I think they are two potential impact guys. The first one is Ivan or Ivan. I'm assuming it's pronounced Ivan Herrera for the St. Louis Cardinals. Now, we just spent
I call
time
him
talking
Pudge.
about
I'm kidding. It's a joke. It's a
Ivan
Pudge Rodriguez joke.
Rodriguez. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess Ivan. Okay. Um, we just spent time talking about how St. Louis has maybe one of the best hitting catchers in baseball. So this one feels like a little bit of a reach, but the reason why I don't think it's that crazy, I mentioned Wilson had a little bit of a wrist issue at the end of last year. Not that that's going to linger, but you never know. I'm just saying keep Herrera on your radar because all this guy's missing is an opportunity, right? They've signed Wilson for many years. So again, he's going to probably play as long as he's healthy. But the second that he's not, or the second, if he does have another cold stretch this year, I think Herrera is a perfect candidate to get some playing time. He was an absolute stud last year in AAA.
Can you
Um,
get time in another position potentially, or if Wilson DHs,
he could, but they're just so good. I mean, he's not going to play first base, right? There's Paul Goldschmidt, some guy,
Yep.
whoever he is, and then they have so many
We're low on Paul
outfielders, and
Goldschmidt, remember?
yeah, that's true. But again, he's going to play.
He's still gonna play.
Unless he's hurt, he's going to play. So, um, he could, but I'm not banking on it unless something happens with Wilson, most likely. Because again, first base, we talked about. They also have a guy named Lucan Baker who
Yep.
tore up the minor leagues last year. So, lots of guys in this system, but Ivan Herrera is one of them. Last year, his slash line was 297, 451, 500 in 83 games in AAA. That was good for a 147 WRC plus, which is phenomenal. And then he put up the same batting average in the majors. He had 297 in a small sample of 13 games, good for a 122 WRC plus. So
Is he gonna start the year in the majors?
I'm not quite sure yet. I think it'll depend on.
Or do they want to get him full-time playing time?
I think they would probably rather have him playing and then just bring him up if they need him, because they'd want to keep him fresh. But in the long run, I could definitely see a, a time where they're splitting PT, 70-30 or something like that. Um, but I don't know if it's this year. I'm not going to bank on it. But right now, I mean, he's practically free. Let's see. So he is going 558. Again, very, very deep league play, but one that I'm very excited about for him to finally start getting some playing time. Dynasty leagues, try to acquire
Pick
this
him
guy
up.
now
Yeah.
because his stock's only going to rise.
And he's one of those guys that we'll talk about throughout the season, update you what's going on with him. So that's why this portion of the podcast isn't going away. And your second guy, the guy that I love, I'm not high on him. I don't think we're
Sure.
getting a ton from him. I think he's going to end up splitting a lot of the playing time. And he didn't impress all that much when he came up last year. He's not known to be a great defensive catcher, but God, I hope you're right. Who's your second prospect?
Yeah. So you mentioned Trevino a few times, and I see why. But I
I know he was
do.
hurt last year, Trevino.
Right, but I'm talking for this year. I
Yep.
mean, like, just he'll probably get some playing time, but yeah, my second prospect to kind of watch out for is Austin Wells. Now, I want to be very clear. So Austin Wells right now is going 327. So very late in drafts again, and I want to stress, like, I agree. I don't think he's going to come up and just be monstrous, right? But this is kind of like that Tyler Stevenson mantra where at that price, all you need him to do is just be average or be okay. And the thing that I think, so if we just look at his track record last year, he started in single A and jumped all the way up to triple A in just 1 year. So clearly the Yankees thought they had something good with him. He's 23 years old, so he was probably a little too old to be in single A anyways, but he hit 17 home runs in 96 games, and he did get a small sample of 19 games in the majors, and his skills translated, right? 19 games, he had a 373 WOBA, or I'm sorry, XWOBA, a 283 XBA, 14% barrel rate. Like, these are all good underlying metrics to show, yes, you know what? It can translate. I'm not expecting him to light the world on fire, but it almost feels like free cheese to say that he's going to return better value than 327 because I think he's a better offensive catcher than Trevino. I think he has a high floor. I don't think he has a huge ceiling, but I'm willing to bet on it at 320. I think that's a good price for him.
And if he can improve on his defensive skills, because that's what Trevino's there for. And I know 2 years ago, Trevino had an uncharacteristically good offensive season where he just popped off. But if he can improve defensively, I think he does become the starting, even if it's 60-40, I think Wells is still the starting catcher over Trevino. Maybe gets it closer to 70-30, and that could be huge for him.
And I do think I sorry, I want to add one more thing too. I think long term, I don't think Austin Wells is the Yankees catcher. Like I don't like if you look 3 years from now, I think he's probably a DH type or something like he's just
And they have
I
another
don't.
catcher in the minors who they're
Mm.
who they're looking at now.
And so all it takes is one Stanton injury, which we'll probably get 2 or 3 this year, right? It just takes one Stanton injury for okay, now we have a hole at DH. Wells feels like a perfect guy to fit in there, especially with Trevino.
Not really. You'll
Obviously,
put Judge there, and then you have Grisham playing center, whatever. Anyway, don't
you don't
ask.
think so? I
You want
guess.
to you want to bring up the Yankee topic. I mean, I could go deep in on this, but they'll have a lot of injuries. They'll have first base injuries too. They'll have third base injuries. This is the
Exactly.
Yankees we're talking about.
Sure. Yeah.
You think Judge is going to stay healthy in center field? I don't. All right, give me your top 10 catchers. Let's do it,
Sure. Can I do last notes real quick or just
please. Do them.
sorry, one more thing that I want to mention because I think it's going to be interesting to watch is the time split between Danny Jansen and Alejandro Kirk. They kind of bring different things to the table. Dan Jan has had some health problems. Kirk, had a super high offensive floor and then it kind of fell off last year, but it seems like they're going to be pretty 50-50. The addition of Justin Turner muddled things up quite a bit, but I want to keep an eye on this, and I encourage everyone who is drafting right now to maybe grab at least one share or keep an eye on one share because of one of those guys, because one of them I think will take over at some point and then it'll go back. Like it's going to be one of these back and forth. So if you are okay rolling with swapping catchers, I think these are two perfect guys to be rolling in and out. Pick up the hot hand, drop one, and just see if you can cycle them back and forth. Because Danny Jansen, good hitter. Alejandro Kirk, I think he's in for better days than last year. Just a fun one to watch. So